So, welcome, Derek and Chris, Martin and Carol. Thank you for joining us to have this conversation about conflict in our marriages, working on the assumption that we have had them, and just to share a bit together for a few minutes about that. So, Derek and Chris, just starting with you, have you had conflict in your marriage? And if so, what kinds of things do you have conflict about?
Conflict started before we were married. We went up to my parents for Easter before we were married, and everybody in the house used to get a big Easter egg, chocolate shell, chocolates inside, and everybody got one. And the idea was, in my house, that you put it all out, divided it up into however many people were in the house. There were 7 in my household anyway, so we Derek 8, and give everybody a bit. And that's what I did. And then I went in the front room to find Derek with the whole lot, eating every little bit all by himself, not sharing anything. I was absolutely aghast. But I had to realise that Derek had come from a background where there was 6 children. What they were given, they were allowed to eat. I came from a big family, and we had to put everything out and share it. And I can remember being so upset until I began to realise, that his background was different to mine.
You got to fight for the right to it, there's some days, I think. But anyway, the navigation's been an issue in our marriage. I don't know why somebody doesn't have the correct page in front of them when we're driving, but that can be.
I can read it properly.
Well, there we are. Something else. Timekeeping has been an issue, hasn't it? And I won't even go mentioning what defines a closed or open door. We won't go there at this point. Over some of the issues.
What about you, Martin and Carol? Any issues from your point of view?
Yeah, we've had some biggies and we've had some small things as well. I think probably some of the major areas of issue have been things like finances. We had a very different approach how we did that. One of us looked at things very corporately, whereas the other person looked at things in minute detail. So we needed a bit of help with that. And then also holidays, because we're very different personalities, and there's a lot of pressure, I think, sometimes when you go on holidays to get so much in that time and really relax and everything. But one of us likes to lie on the beach, whereas the other likes to be very, very active and make the most of the time. So that's caused a bit of tension. In regards to small things.
Well, small things can be down to which side round my shirt collars are ironed. So I'll iron them one way and Carol will iron them the other way. And I don't like how she irons them her way. Or it might be as simple as we have a saying in our household about toilet roll poverty. So we've got different loos in the house. I like to see a nice stock of toilet rolls available so that if the toilet roll's getting low, the person going into the loo is reassured, particularly if you've got visitors come to the house. Don't worry, there's ample toilet roll here. Whereas others in the house just seem to kind of, when it's absolutely right down to nothing, then we might go and find another one and refill the loo roll. So it goes on with trivial things like that. What constitutes a loo seat properly down? Because actually the loo seat down and the lid down isn't what a lady wants to see, I've discovered. And they certainly,
I agree. Yeah.
They certainly don't want to see both of them up like blokes want to see. So for a guy, here's a tip, guys, just have the seat down, the lid up, and that's perfect for your lady.
I like that bit of what you said actually about finances. I think is a good one actually, because we had different issues about how we manage money as well, and one of us was much more I don't know, structured about it, and the other one less so. And we had to learn how to manage that too, actually, I think, in terms of us. And the holiday one as well, as I say.
Very much so.
Yeah, so one of us wants to sit down, give me a book, don't move me for 2 weeks. And another of us would like to, let's go and see what's around. Let's go and explore this place that we've not been to before, that we're probably not going to come back to again. And so let's do that. So you're right. Actually, there's some things that are quite common as well.
That's right. So yeah, some of us end up coming home more tired than when we went on holiday.
Need another holiday.
Our conflict with holiday starts well beforehand. I want to book it 9 months beforehand. My wife 1 month beforehand.
There's a lot of stuff we have to, navigate, that we, between us as couples.
No, we have conflict. Well, we used to have conflict in our marriage in the early days. Actually, it's a cultural thing. Depends where you come from in the West Indies, how you cook your rice. It's a big thing, you know. And I like my rice like Uncle Ben, nice and soft and fluffy. A certain person like it when you can throw it at you and you can throw it and it'll hit you and cause damage.
Yeah. See, now I'm about to say, no, that's not right. That's not how I like my rice. There's lots of things to keep, and at least you know, I suppose that adds to the variety of things. But I think you can't always, you then have to find a way of dealing with those things, don't we? In terms of how go on, Chris.
How have you dealt with that one, Mavis?
Well, I still cook my rice. We do have Jones rice and Williams rice, and whoever's cooking, cook it their way, and the other person kind of has to accept that. And that's right. And it's not something to get upset about. And I think over time, it's become something that we, you know, that particular issue is something that we can smile about now. And we, you know, if we're eating somebody else's rice, we'll kind of say, oh, is it a Williams rice or is it a Jones rice?
Well, we have shown each other how we do it, that sort of thing. So sometimes we do have a crossover, don't we? Depending on how we do it. So yeah, so we got over it.
Yeah, I think over time, what we've done is to kind of recognise how we are different in terms of how we kind of dealt with things. And I know in the early part of our marriage, anything that I thought was, you know, I wasn't happy with, or I thought, oh, that's not right, or I didn't tend to talk about it. I might just kind of chunter away at myself, or keep it to myself, or I might talk to a girlfriend about it. Say, do you know what he did? He did that kind of stuff. But over time, have learned actually that's really not the best thing to do, and actually have gained more about actually I need to be able to talk about that, and we need to sort it out. But it wasn't I suppose it wasn't a natural thing for me. I'm much more, I think I'm more of a peacemaker, and trying to avoid conflict rather than let's resolve it. Or certainly when we were first married, that would have been how I would have gone about it. I think over time that's changed.
There's something good about bringing things out into the open for clarity, and sometimes I think as a couple you may not have the answers yourself. You might recognize that there's a difference of opinion, say around finances, and what's good is for both spouses to say, well, actually, why don't we go on a church course that or some other recognized you know, kind of third-party view on how to do these sorts of things well. And we found that helpful. You know, it brought out into the open, here are some recommended good practices. This is, you know, this is how to put a good budget together. And you then have something concrete to agree on. And a lot of these things are also tied to your vision and your values. So spending time, I think, certainly over time, starting to understand each other in terms of, well, actually, this isn't so much about individual opinion at any one time,
Mm.
but what are the really important things to us in terms of our values and our vision and our passion going forward? Because if we can agree on these things and how we're leading forward and what we're aiming for, if there's harmony around those things, actually the little contentious things kind of fall slightly by the wayside. You resolve them on the way. It's kind of like almost a rubbing shoulders and a discipleship on the way. So for example, with the finances, just getting clarity around budget, clarity around what constitutes a good or not good use of borrowing, what's a really sensible thing to do in terms of saving for a rainy day, short-term saving for those items throughout the year, so that when it comes to somebody's birthday, you do have a budget available and you're not taking it out of the food money. You've made provision for birthday or Christmas. But then also the longer term things, and just the reassurance that actually, there's midterm savings there. The amount is irrelevant. It's the fact that, you're able and have got a plan for midterm and a plan for longer term savings. And whatever it is, however you go about it, it's out in the open, you can agree on it, and unity comes when you see, the vision of what you're aiming for.
I think that thing about, if you know where you're going, it kind of helps you plot the journey, and in knowing that, you can determine the things that are less important actually, and work that out and work those things that are important. I think I think that's really a kind of helpful point actually. What about you, Derek and Chris? How have things worked for you over time? Because you've been married quite a long time.
45 and a half years, is it there? Yeah, 35 years happy married, yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I've got to say, with navigation, I've got to admit that my wife has an incredible sense of north and south and east and west, even when she's driving down a motorway, which I do not have. And I've come to realise, if we get lost, it's not like we're in the Kalahari Desert. We are in Western Europe. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. And just to be patient with her and try not. And if we miss the turning, we can always turn around. You know what I mean? So actually, like with navigation, that's helped, to be honest. You want to say about timekeeping, dear?
I think when you know a situation is going to come up, in your heart, you can determine how you're going to react to it. Because I know Derek is going to be 10 minutes late to wherever we go. So I just got to accept it. And I know I've got to determine in my heart. And I will say to myself, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to just sit and wait, because I can't do anything about it. I love him so much. I'm just going to be patient. I'm just going to be kind. And it's that set of your heart, the set of your mind, that you're going to act in a certain way when you know something inevitable is going to happen.
Yeah, I think we're the same as well. We've determined that actually the relationship and our love for each other is more important than whatever it is we've come over conflict.
That's a good word, Carol.
And that's really important. And also it's really important to say sorry as well, and not justifying why you're saying sorry, but just say a simple I'm sorry and be the first one to do it. So like on the course, you taught us that it's the stronger one that actually says sorry first. And that's something that we've really taken on board, and I think that's made quite a significant difference in the way that we deal with conflict and deal with one another afterwards, and just speak to each other. That gentle word that turns away wrath. Just even the tone of voice that you use. Not naming things or being accusatory. All that kind of stuff is just so important.
There's a great decision tree that says, if I make a mistake, she gets angry, so I apologize. But if she makes a mistake, and I get angry, she'll get angry and I apologise anyway. So the role of the man is to always apologise. In fact, just when you get up in the morning, just say sorry in advance for everything.
Absolutely.
Set your day up right with your wife.
That's right.
Be under your wife's grace and the Lord's grace, and your day will go well. Just remember to apologise every possible opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because I find in our marriage as well, it's me who normally apologise first as well. So that's right to me.
I never say anything for a quiet life, but I don't think that's quite right.
But I also find, because one of the things we had is like the kitchen, and we, Mavis would use all the sink and all the space and all the pots, and that used to frustrate me. But then over time, I find, well, I'll go and help. I said, while you're doing that, do you want me to start washing up for you? And I'll start doing the process, and that helps, because then we can have a conversation while we're in the kitchen together, and thus make work lighter. And I find that works sometimes, rather than criticize, actually offer to help.
Yeah.
After help each other.
I think that point about the importance of the relationship, I think is really key.
It's key.
That actually what we're doing is recognizing that this is more important than whatever that issue might be.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
then what we'll do is make sure that we act in a way to maintain this and make sure that is safe and healthy, and that's what we want out of the conflict. So the conflict might, whatever it's going to be, it's going to come up at whatever level it might be. But actually, partly what underpins how we behave and how we act is actually we know that we want to keep this, that this is the person that I love and I'm committed to. Okay, so we can work this out. Okay, you don't like the way I cook rice, but actually that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
We can
bigger picture is,
we can actually work that out.
And conflict isn't always bad, because actually you could have both spouses actually with a viewpoint on something, and both are incorrect or off to one side a bit too much. And actually there's a sweet spot in the middle that's actually the right place to be. And it's kind of working through that conflict. It's almost like in the heat of the foundry, the sword is forged. You'll find your precious thing if you're able to really harness the energy of that conflict in the right way and really reason through things together. Can two walk together unless they're in agreement? Reason this through. You take it to the Lord in prayer, work it through, and don't be intimidated by the conflict itself. It may be a catalyst to you finding a better solution that is somewhere in between, in the middle of both viewpoints, and you just work through and get to that right point in the Lord together.
I think with conflict and any situations in a marriage, remember the other one actually is for you, to be honest. And sometimes conflict comes because generally it's different perspectives, let's face it, but also sometimes our perspectives may be forged by the family patterns, and it may also be forged by the family hang-ups as well. And to make yourself vulnerable and share some of your hang-ups is a big challenge, but the person does get to know you, I think, and it's helped me tremendously, I've got to say, in our marriage.
I agree.
I think that's was the kind of conclusion that we came to, that actually in the things that were different about us and the things that we had to resolve, actually it helped us to understand each other better. And that's a really positive thing to do. Well, thank you. I think that's been an interesting conversation. I've learned a little bit more about you guys, which is always helpful. Like, I'm not sure I want to be. Make sure I remember that Derek is going to be 10 minutes late. Wherever he's going to be. And
toilet roll.
Exactly. That was the one that stuck in my mind, actually, Martin. So brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. That's been much appreciated, and I hope that people are listening to this have found it helpful too.